once they start the meeting, you'll have to hit escape because Zoom likes to take over everything.
Okay. So when I hit escape, that'll allow me to vote.
Okay, you should be able to hit escape right now to exit full screen mode.
Yeah.
And then you should be able to toggle back to your PrimeGov.
Okay, well, you don't have the voting up yet.
Right.
I do see the voting side, though. I see the place where it says agenda item waiting for active item in addition.
Yes, the voting screen isn't up yet.
Okay.
It's just the agenda.
You should be, yes, on the PrimeGov screen, you should just see the agenda. Is that correct, Francis?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, we're ready. And if we have any problems, we will address them as they occur.
Thank you, Francis. So this is Eric Winger, the chairman of the Pre-Qualification Review Board. I'm going to call the meeting to order of May 13th. Thank you for joining the Oklahoma City's video conference Pre-Qualification Review Board meeting. We have a few announcements to make regarding the virtual meeting. If the video conference is disconnected at any time during the meeting shall be stopped and reconvened once the audio connection is restored. If communications are unable to be restored within 15 minutes, items remaining for consideration will be continued today, May 13th at 1 p.m. via teleconference. The agenda and documents are located on okc.gov. Anyone wishing to speak about an agenda item, public hearing, or to speak under comments from board members, staff, and citizens, please call 405-297-2293 or text 405-403-5256 or email prequal@okc.gov. Speakers will be allowed 3 minutes to comment. I ask that all participants except the Pre-Qualification Review Board members keep their phones on mute until they're recognized to speak. The Pre-Qualification Review Board would be allowed to ask questions or comment at any time to the meeting. So I will call the meeting to order. City Clerk, can you verify our quorum? Or board
Yes,
secretary?
we have quorum, and the agenda was posted and published in accordance to the new law.
Great. So welcome, board members. We'll do our first teleconference for pre-qual. And looking at the minutes, hopefully you have those in front of you or you were able to download those.
So last time was our first teleconference for pre-qual. This is our first video conference.
Okay. Yes, I'm correct.
That's what the minutes say. So.
You're right. We did do it.
Okay. Okay. I would move approval of the minutes. Oh, I guess I have to do that on my screen. Move, yes.
Okay, where's mine?
So if you are on prime.gov, you should see your voting screen come up. So I've got a motion and a second.
So I don't see a voting screen.
You're gonna have to probably switch screens, I think, to the prime.gov.
Well,
I know. We'll get it.
I got it.
Okay. So you can lock your vote in there for yay or nay. And the motion passes. So we have approved minutes. We're going to move to item 3, consent docket. There are a number of items today. There's 18 total. We have 13.
Did you see that was Laura Johnson, Francis Kersey?
I'm sorry, what?
Are we good? Just making sure. Okay, so we're looking at the consent docket. We have 18 items, 13 renewals, 0 are new, and 5 removed conditions. We're looking at their status of local or non-local. 14 are local, 1 non-local, and 3 are out of state. I don't have any specific comments that are listed on the agenda, but we can answer questions, and we have staff available as well.
Eric, I have one item number 14 I'd like to talk about for a second, please.
Okay. Meridian Contracting.
Meridian, yeah. So they were recommended for a pre-qualification as a Class A water facilities, Class A wastewater facilities, Class B water pipeline, and Class B wastewater pipeline. After further review, the recommendation was to approve. After further review, the type of pipe that they've been laying is not what we normally use. It's a totally different application where we normally use ductile iron or PVC in various length joints, and their only experience is with fusion welded HDPE pipe. Because of that, although they have the diameter and the length to qualify for a Class B, I would suggest that we approve them as a provisional Class B to allow them to bid on that type of work, but only allow them to bid on one project so that we can verify that they can handle that type of installation before we give them a full qualification as a Class B contractor.
And so that recommendation, Chris, is for water pipeline only, a provisional Class B water pipe?
Water and wastewater, Eric.
Okay. Why don't we consider amending that item separately first if there's no other comments on item number 14? Meridian Contracting. Chris, do you want to make a motion to amend the
So moved.
action? So there's a motion made to amend Class B water pipeline and wastewater pipeline to water pipeline provisional and wastewater pipeline provisional.
Class B, yes.
Class B. This is going to be for item Meridian Contracting only. Your voting screen
Correct.
should be. Motion passed. Any other questions on the consent docket? If there are none, looking for a motion on the consent docket. Thank you, Laura. Thanks, Chris. And the consent docket is passed. Thank you. We're going to move on to applications for separate vote. Item number 4, we do not have any today. We're now going to move to item 5, informational items. We do have one application as an informational item. It's the withdrawal of an application for Jim Cooley Construction Company. Staff did receive correspondence from them after working with them on their application over the past couple of months, and they have decided to just withdraw. The comment from Cooley is that if they are interested in doing work in the future, that they will just reapply and we'll go back through the pre-qualification process at that time.
Do we need any action on that?
No, we visited with Craig Keith, and just the fact that they've withdrawn, there's no additional action required. They were actually previously granted a 60-day conditional, but with them withdrawing, that would terminate any further response by staff.
Okay.
Any other questions on informational items today? I mean, we just had the one, but just making sure there's no questions on Jim Cooley. We'll move to show cause. Item 6 on the agenda. We do not have any items for consideration today for show cause. Moving forward to item 7, comments from board, staff, and citizens. We do have one item on the agenda, Class D water and wastewater pipeline. There has been discussion about adding the new Class D. Hopefully you received a handout of the proposed changes. I think as we discuss this further today, this is an opportunity for us to create a new class to help smaller contractors enter into Oklahoma City market and do work in Oklahoma City. I think I will defer some of the discussion to Chris and also utility staff to bring the board up to speed.
Thank you, Eric. The only question that I have, or the only recommendation that I would have in relation to this item, is the bonding limit. It may be a little high. These are generally plumbers not doing work that will be turned over to the city or to the utility. So I would recommend that rather than the $500,000 bonding limit, we look at maybe a $250,000 bonding limit.
So one of the items too that I think we were reviewing the same and saw the same, I think that depending on what the type of work that I think is desired from water pipe D and wastewater pipe D, they currently, if they're installing meters and service lines, I think the bonding limit is as low as $10,000. Now maybe that's too low, but that's at least what it is today.
Eric, the only concern I have is if they're connecting to a main line within the right of way, they're going to impact pavement and pipelines. And so I wanted to make sure that we could cover any damage that they may cause within that right of way. And so that's why I'm recommending rather than 500, the 250. Now the Class C is $1 million, but they're actually turning over assets to the city. So I think if we lower it to 250, or we can come in lower if the board believes that that's more appropriate, but I don't really think that we need to make it 500.
So, Chris, I think that, I mean, my goal is always to get people into the business of building experience. And so I think that that was some of what caused us to even work on a Class D. So I'm wondering what you think our exposure would be in the right of way. Do you think that it could be as high as 250, or do you think we could go to something like 50,000 and still allow them to work and cover our potential risk?
Laura, the only thing would be damage to our utility.
Right.
That could cause some significant damage to pavement and other utilities in the area. And so I'm comfortable even going down as far as 100, but I don't think I'd go much below that for a bond.
Okay, then I would say let's go to 100. Again, my goal there is to try to get some experience for these contractors without too much risk to us. But I think that the lower we can make that bond and still make it obviously cover that risk, the better we're gonna be at helping people develop that experience.
Yes. And the thing that we all need to remember is we're not owning any of these assets. They're just connecting to our assets. So it's not like we would have future liability once the job is completed.
Right, but we do have that liability while they're working in the right of way, is what you're saying.
Correct.
Eric, as a representative of whoever might be fixing that paving, do you feel like 100,000 is a sufficient bond?
So paving Class D, we don't actually have on the agenda today. We were trying to get.
I'm talking about the risk to them damaging our paving while they're working.
If they were to break our water line, Eric, and it caused a hole to occur and damage pavement, do you believe that 100 is an appropriate bond to fix the water line and to repair the pavement?
I think it's probably a little on the high side, but it's probably reasonable. I mean, obviously, Chris, I think you and I would agree. It just depends on the size of line that they break.
Yes.
If it's a smaller line, it'll be less, but if they hit a main line, it's going to be more. So this is probably a little high, but probably the average.
100.
Yeah, I think it's reasonable, but it's going to be high for the smaller contractors, but I don't know what their rates will be to acquire that bond.
Yeah.
This is Crystal Kowalik. We did check into what the rates cost. They cost between 1 and 1.5% of what the bond is. So on the high side, it'd be about $1,500 for them to get that bond.
And then do they, when the work is completed, do they get to release the bond and get any of that money back?
So they tend to hold that bond for like a year to cover multiple contracts.
Uh-huh.
They basically, yes. They
So
do
once
get
the work is finished, then they can, once the work is finished, they can apply that bond to another project.
yes.
Okay,
Yeah, there's a per job and then aggregate is what they would get. And as a former contractor, Laura, you actually add that dollar amount into the project. And if all contractors have to go by the same rule, the owner can't really shop around to get a better deal because some contractors might not have to buy that bond. So they're all going to have it, and it'll just be included in the price of the project.
got it.
And they just kind of roll all their projects up under that bond. It just kind of,
I see. It's not like they have to get if they have 10 projects going on, they have to get $1 million worth of bonding.
right.
Well, it depends on the amount of the work, but they for each job it would be 100,000, and they would have an aggregate. So that aggregate would limit how many jobs they could bid at one time.
Got it.
But this would be the minimum bonding limit, so they could carry a larger bond if they desired.
Sure.
Yeah, okay.
I'm sure no one really desires that.
Well, it looks good for their financials when they do, so. So the item today is a discussion item. We did not set this up for action today, but with the comments, and we can continue to discuss, what we would be prepared to do is next month, bring back an amended exhibit to the board resolution that creates the classes. So the idea today is if we can get the document really, really close so that we can consider action next month, we'll be able to publish or post the comments that are included today and move this forward in June. Are there other comments on water pipe D and water wastewater?
I do have a question.
Yeah.
So if someone is applying for one of these pre-qualification statuses and they do not have 6 successful projects indicating a connection to a public system, would we discuss giving them a provisional to allow them to do one project at a time?
Yes, most of them would have some experience, Laura, as in some form of work. They might not, they may have gone out and started their own company, but they're going to have past experience working for another company that would be considered.
I see. Okay.
And we would give them a provisional if they didn't actually have the amount of experience necessary under their new name. But unless it was a company that just changed names, we would give them the benefit of the doubt there. But if they were a new company and had experience working with another company, we would give them the provisional to allow them to bid a job.
Okay.
And I'm sorry, this is Crystal Kwolek. I have one more question. We have a couple people that we gave provisional Cs for because we didn't have the D. Would we bring those people back and basically give them a D license now?
So Crystal, they could operate as a C as long as they wanted to. If they wanted to come back for a D and say lower their bonding limit or come back for a D and it not be provisional, I mean, that would be an option that they could exercise.
Okay.
Well, or at the end of their term, if they're not fully qualified for a C, but they would qualify for a D, that would be something that staff would recommend, correct?
What we did was gave them a C, but limited the work to outside the right of way, or no work that would be turned over to the city. So there is a limit to that C that we gave them. So essentially we've given them a D, and the cost of the D would be lower. So they'd probably, default to that if they're not going to do any work that would be turned over to the city.
So if we gave them a provisional C 2 months ago and they want to come back and convert that to a D, would we charge them another fee?
I would suggest that we would not.
So we've administratively not, if they've come back within a reasonable time, Laura. I think once they're really close to their anniversary date, though, we go ahead and receive it as a new application. So we're trying to work with them the best that we can.
Well, and I would say that no matter what, if they come back and request a D, that the D is only valid until the C would have expired. That, you know, that if they're not paying the fee again, that they
Right.
get the expiration date they would have gotten for the provisional C.
Miss Jose, I had a question.
Hi, Jose.
How are you, ma'am?
Good.
So, Chris, on this water, are we doing an administrative approval? In case that they're trying to do a water meter, they don't have to wait for a month or 2 months to get pre-qualified?
Well, what I heard was this would come back to the pre-qual board next month in a resolution to change the ordinance to add this classification in the interim.
I think we need to do that.
In the interim, we have the Class C limiting work to only private work. I mean, they could get that to continue to work on private work.
But I think, Jose, question, this is Eric. I think that right now what I'm hearing from this is that it wouldn't have an administrative option. It would be just a normal application process where they'd submit the application and go forward. But correct me if I'm wrong, Chris.
No, you're not wrong, Eric.
Okay. I think the reason the question has come up, and it's not specific to the water Class D, but on the paving Class D, which is not on the discussion item today, but something that we'll bring next month, is that we're looking at an administrative approval option for Class D paving. And we'll bring those notes and those comments next month.
So a permanent administrative approval?
Yeah, so it actually require an ordinance amendment to do that. It wouldn't be something by just adding a class that the board has authorization to do. So we'd like to present to the board an option for paving D to be administrative, but it's going to require a longer time to get it approved because it's in the ordinance.
Right. So Chris, are you interested in doing that?
Whatever's the easiest for everybody, I am in favor of doing it.
Well,
Okay.
but I think that what it does is commit your staff to a review of something that would not come back to the board for approval. Class D water and wastewater pipeline would be administratively approvable.
And
So what-
where I'm okay with that, since they're not turning the assets over to the city for
Okay.
perpetual maintenance, then that may be a good way to handle it.
Okay.
Chris, I have one last question for you, sir.
Yes.
I was just curious. So for this new class, is there going to be bore or paving repairs inclusive of this class? And the reason I'm asking is, are we going to have them do this class and then have to obtain or try to obtain a boring classification and also a paving limited right-of-way classification?
Jose, I would recommend that they get qualified as a boring contractor through this body. We don't want just everybody out there boring under our streets.
Correct. Yeah, that's just something we'll have to look in. I think right now it's set at about 500,000 for the bonding limit for some of these small folks. I don't know how they'll do that either. So we'll look at that.
Main happens to be, or the sewer main happens to be across the street, and they're going to have to enlist the services of a qualified boring contractor to protect our right of way. And so that this particular classification would only allow them to connect to our assets. It would not allow them to bore or do any other work within the right of way.
Understood. Okay. That's all I have. Thank you.
Otherwise, they need to get a Class C license or a Class C approval from the board so that they can do more, I guess, a broader base of work on a project.
Yes, sir. Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, so I think, are there,
If that conversation is over, I'm going to need to get to another meeting. So
yeah, I think we're done. And what we will do is we will bring this item and then we'll also introduce an update on the paving Class D next month. Potentially maybe having an item for action, but we'll look at that this next few weeks and see if we can have that all ready for our next meeting.
Sounds good.
All right.
Thank you.
Any other comments from board, staff, or citizens?
I would like to thank Frances and her staff for setting this meeting up, and we muddled through the first one. So thank you, Frances, and all of the staff.
Well, I do want to recognize my team, Amy and Alan and Mickey, for everything they've done to get us to this point. They're wonderful.
Agree so much. Thank you to everybody who's worked on this. You know, I hope that all of us participants can live up to the quality that you all have provided to us in this.
Come on, Laura, don't set the bar way up there.
I don't know. I feel like I'm fumbling through, although I think I did better today than yesterday and the day before. So I'm thinking that I should set up a public meeting for tomorrow so I can practice again. That's the problem, is we won't do it again for a month and then I will have forgotten.
All right. If there are no other comments, we do not have any items for separate vote. Item number 9, new business. Is there any new business that any of the board members would have that was not foreseeable before the meeting? Well, thank you all very much, and we're adjourned.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Thank
Be safe.
Thank you.
Thanks.